Good evening, everyone. Imagine two people walk into a room, both equally intelligent, both equally hardworking. One of them carries a name, a history, a lineage that is instantly recognized, grounding them in a sense of belonging. The other walks in with a different story, one that isn't always understood, one that sometimes feels like it needs a little bit of explaining. Who do you think will be more certain of their place in that room? Who do you think is less likely to question whether they truly belong? For a long time, I struggled with these very questions. Growing up, my adoptive family surrounded me with love, making sure I never felt like I was different in a way that would make me feel less whole. And yet, the world had its own way of reminding me that my story, my adoption, came with layers that not everybody would be able to comprehend. I remember the first time that I truly felt different. I was 12 years old, sitting on the bus, when a senior of mine turned to me and goes, this was right after he saw my mom drop me off at the bus stop. He smiled very politely and said, "Wow, you have your mom's smile. And you look a lot like your dad. It's so cute." I froze. I was like, what? That's ridiculous. But then obviously I didn't say that out loud. I had heard my friends say this to each other. But this is the first time that someone had ever said that to me. He had no idea how much weight those words had carried. I nodded, I smiled back, but inside I felt something shift. How could I explain that the resemblance that he saw wasn't biological? That the connection I had to my parents wasn't written in our DNA, but in the love that we shared? That feeling followed me into adolescence. There were times people would ask, "Do you ever wonder about your real parents?" As if the ones who had raised me, the ones who had celebrated every win with me, and the ones that consoled me after every loss were placeholders. Others assumed that I should be endlessly grateful, as though adoption was only about being saved rather than about building a family in its own right. Adoption comes with some very weird moments. Like the time my parents told me, well, my mom first, when she told me that I was adopted, she goes, "Betu, there's something you need to know. You are adopted." And that's when out of all the things that I could do, I turned to my dog, Cuddles, and I went jokingly, "You are adopted, Cuddles." I don't know what I was thinking there, expecting some deep soul-searching reaction from my dog. She just wagged her tail, looked at me and went, "Yeah, and are you still going to feed me dinner tonight?" That level of confidence, unmatched. Meanwhile, I spent years questioning whether I belonged. But here's what I learned. Adoption isn't about being rescued or placed. It's about identity, about belonging, and about learning to hold two truths at the same time. Adoption is love and loss. At the same time, it's certainty and doubt. It is knowing exactly who you are, while also wondering about the pieces you will never fully grasp. It's about realizing that your story doesn't have to fit into a single, simple narrative. It's about understanding that love isn't defined by blood, and that belonging isn't something that can be measured by resemblance. It's about knowing that you can grieve what you lost while still being incredibly grateful for what you have. It's like holding two pieces of a puzzle, two puzzle pieces that don't fit together, but somehow they still make up the bigger picture of who you are. One doesn't cancel out the other. They coexist. And that's okay. For a long time, I thought that I'd have to choose between the two. The past or the present. The family that raised me or the one I came from. But I was wrong. We are not torn between the two worlds. We are the bridge that connects them. And in that realization, there is power. And yet another layer to this conversation. The way that society assigns power to certain voices over others. We don't like to admit it, But power is often granted to those who are not to just those who are capable, but to those who sound capable. Those who have the right accent, the right articulation, the right ease in the way they speak. People who enter a room without questioning whether they belong are often listened to first. Their words are taken more seriously. Their presence commands respect before they even have to prove themselves. As a law student, I've seen firsthand the impact of sounding privileged. Law is a profession that is built on language, on persuasion, argumentation, and even authority. The way you speak can determine how seriously your arguments are taken, whether you command the room, whether people trust your reasoning. A legal argument isn't just about what you say, it's about how you say it. I realized that if I wanted to thrive in this space, I needed to master not just the legal principles, but also the art of sounding like I belonged. For adopted individuals, for those who come from different backgrounds, for those who do not naturally fit into the mold of privilege, this reality can be very frustrating. No matter how intelligent, how hardworking, or how deserving we are, the world still has its ways of making us feel like we need to prove ourselves over and over again. It's like showing up to a party and realizing that everyone already knows the inside jokes, the unspoken rules, and you're just there in the corner trying to catch up. But here's a deeper question. Should it be this way? Should someone's credibility be tied to how privileged they sound? Ideally, no. But in reality, this bias does exist. And that's why understanding this power is very important. Not just to change who we are, but to equip ourselves with the tools to navigate a world that often judges before it listens. I remember walking into a room full of people who seemed to have this inherited confidence like a family heirloom. They carried themselves with an ease. And that was something that I envied. As if the world had already just decided that they belonged. Meanwhile, I stood there wondering if I should explain myself, if I should justify why I was in that space. And that's when I realized belonging isn't something that we wait for permission to have. It is something that we claim. And here's the reality that no one says loud enough. Sounding privileged or polished doesn't always mean that you are filled with integrity. Language can be a performance. Some people are trained how to sound trustworthy, but trust at its core, it's about action and truth, not articulation. We hear fake it till you make it far too often. But the truth is, no one has to, and no one should have to fake it to belong. There's no substitute for authenticity. Real belonging comes when you are your own voice, not mimicking somebody else's. No faking it to make it. Just real courage to show up as you are. But this isn't just about my adoption. It was about the way that the world assigns this power and credibility. People who feel like they already have an inherent sense of belonging, whether in families, whether in institutions, or even in society. You move through life with a confidence that isn't accessible to those who have just had to navigate their identity on their own terms. And that is when I understood that belonging isn't about where you come from. It's about how you choose to define yourself. We live in a world that is etched, that is often teaches us the costlier something is, the better the quality. This belief is etched into how we value everything, from products to people. But our generation is shifting that. We're questioning, we are challenging, we are saying that we don't have to take anything at face value. Worth is no longer defined by price tag or polished exteriors. It's defined by meaning, by substance, by truth. For me, writing Much More Than Love was a way to take ownership of my own story. It was my way of acknowledging that, yes, adoption shaped me, but it did not restrain me. It was my way of processing the moment that I learned about the past, about my past, and the emotions that followed, and the path that I chose forward. It is about embracing the complexity of my identity and understanding that I do not need to fit into anyone's expectations to feel whole. This isn't just my story. This is the story of many adopted individuals who had to navigate the tension between love and loss, between knowing and wondering, and between certainty and doubt. Adoption is layered. It is love and grief. It is belonging. And at many times, isolation. It is finding strength in the in-between, in the space where two families, two histories, and two realities coexist with one person. Adoption also teaches us resilience in ways that aren't always acknowledged. To be adopted is to live with a constant balancing act between the family that raised us and the unknown past that lingers in the background. It requires a unique kind of emotional strength, one that is often underestimated by those who never had to question their origins. The resilience is not just personal, it is social and political. Adoption interacts with a broader conversation about identity and privilege, and even representation for that matter. Who gets to tell their story? Whose experience is validated without question? These are things that not only shape our individual sense of belonging, but also how society perceives us. In the end, belonging is not about confronting or conforming to a predefined mold. It is about reshaping the narrative so that our stories, no matter how complex, are seen, heard, and even valued. If we can do that for ourselves, then we can do that for others. And that is how the change begins. If I could go back to my younger self and to the girl sitting in the bus, hearing a senior's words just echo in her mind, I would tell her this. You do not have to prove that you belong. You do not have to justify your story. You are not defined by the things you didn't choose. You are defined by how you choose to move forward. So I want to leave you with a question. How do you speak to yourself? How do you present yourself to others? Are you letting the world determine your worth based on the way you sound? Or are you taking control of your voice, your confidence, and your narrative? Thank you.